In every home, there are silent rituals that shape destiny, small movements so ordinary they slip past notice. Tossing your keys onto a counter, dropping them beside the door, leaving them tangled with mail or forgotten at the bottom of a bag. Harmless, right? Until you realize, in the eyes of energy, in the unseen patterns that govern prosperity, no movement is ever neutral. Every gesture, especially those tied to transition and access, either invites fortune closer or quietly pushes it away. In Feng Shui, keys are not merely tools. They are living extensions of your personal power. They represent the ability to open doors, to cross thresholds, to step into new phases of life. They absorb, they transmit, they anchor possibilities. And when they are placed carelessly, they reflect and reinforce a life that feels scattered, delayed, disconnected from its own abundance. You don't need to believe in magic to see it. You only need to watch what happens when certain patterns repeat. Someone who constantly loses their keys often loses more than just objects. They lose momentum. Someone whose keys are buried under clutter often feels their dreams buried too. Someone who treats their keys with intention often moves through life with greater ease, finding the right doors opening at the right times, seemingly by chance, but never really by chance. Today I invite you into a different way of seeing your space and yourself. Together we'll uncover the hidden energy language of key placement. We'll walk through 5 everyday mistakes that might be draining your opportunities without you even realizing it. And more importantly, I'll show you simple, gentle shifts that can anchor your fortune, restore your clarity, and help you realign with the flow of abundance that has always been waiting to meet you. Because real Feng Shui isn't about superstition, it's about signaling. It's about how the tiny daily choices you make, often without thinking, send out messages that shape what life brings back to you. Before we continue, I would be honored if you took a moment to support this growing community. Please like this video. If something here resonates with you, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to New Day Mindfulness. Each new subscriber is not just a number, it's a shared intention. A quiet but powerful statement that says, I want to live more clearly, more consciously, more aligned with the forces that sustain and uplift life. We're walking gently toward our first to 1,000 followers, not through noise or pressure, but through shared understanding. And your presence here helps us grow into something beautiful. So wherever you are right now, glance around. Where do your keys rest? What quiet message are they broadcasting into your life? And are you ready, truly ready, to start moving differently? Let's begin. Core teaching. Keys as carriers of life energy. In the practice of Feng Shui, few everyday objects carry as much silent weight as a set of keys. They are not just functional tools for unlocking doors. They are energetic anchors, quietly tying you to your freedom, your security, and your capacity to access new wealth, relationships, and experiences. Every key you carry or store sends out an energetic message to the spaces you inhabit, and that message either strengthens your connection to opportunity or slowly frays it. Understanding this begins with the very nature of keys themselves, their material. In classical metaphysical teachings, metal is one of the 5 elemental forces, alongside wood, water, fire, and earth, and it plays a unique dual role. Metal is both stabilizer and transmitter. It conducts energy easily, channeling and magnifying the invisible currents around it. In skilled hands, it builds bridges between worlds, offering support, clarity, and security. But when neglected, misaligned, or scattered, metal can just as easily transmit confusion, stagnation, or even resistance into the flow of life. A key made of metal, then, is not just passive. It is constantly interacting with its environment. It picks up emotional residues, it amplifies the energy fields it is exposed to, and over time, it begins to mirror back to you the quality of the spaces and habits that surround it. If you routinely leave your keys buried under piles of paper, tossed near chaotic electronics, or dropped thoughtlessly near the threshold of your home, you are not simply being disorganized. You are creating tiny daily echoes of instability. You are signaling even without speaking, that fortune is something difficult to access, something misplaced, something that may be close but just out of reach. Conversely, when your keys are treated with care, given a stable, clean, and energetically supportive resting place, you reinforce the deep subconscious belief that access is easy, that transitions are graceful, and that doors open when you are ready to walk through them. You subtly teach yourself, day after day, that your movements through life are supported, that your efforts meet welcome rather than resistance, and that prosperity is not something you have to chase. It is something you simply align with. In Feng Shui, the art is never about grand gestures or complex rituals. It is about the simplest movements, made with attention and reverence, becoming vessels for transformation. Where your keys live, whether they rest on a cluttered countertop, buried in a drawer with expired coupons and tangled chargers, or displayed thoughtfully on a dedicated tray near a protective symbol, tells a larger story than you might imagine. It whispers to your deeper mind whether fortune is something you respect or neglect, whether security is something you assume or abandon, and whether the path to your future is open, blocked, or winding unnecessarily. And make no mistake, your subconscious mind listens. It builds its internal maps based not on your stated intentions, but on the lived reality you reinforce through small, repeated actions. If every day the first thing you do when you return home is scatter your keys without care, you are rehearsing a life of scattered focus. If every morning you fumble to find your keys buried under layers of disorder, you are practicing a life where opportunities are harder to locate and harder to hold. But if instead you take a moment, even 30 seconds, to place your keys with dignity in a place chosen for clarity and purpose, you start to imprint a very different kind of map inside yourself. You reinforce the feeling that life is navigable, that what you need is within reach, that doors do open, and they open at your touch. This is not superstition. It is symbolic language, the same language that your home, your habits, and your life have been speaking to your heart all along. Most people simply haven't been taught how to listen yet, but once you do, the changes are often quiet, swift, and deeply felt. In a world obsessed with massive changes and overnight transformations, real power lies in these invisible daily agreements. The agreement you make when you place your keys thoughtfully is the same agreement you make with your future, that you are ready, willing, and able to step into new spaces with clarity and ease. As we move forward in this journey today, remember your keys are not just practical, they are potent. Treat them as such and watch how your outer world begins, almost imperceptibly at first, to reflect back the respect, the care, and the openness you cultivate within. 5 critical mistakes that drain energy through keys. 1. Leaving keys on electronics. One of the most overlooked but profoundly disruptive mistakes in managing household energy flow is leaving your keys directly on top of electronic devices. It seems harmless in the rush of daily life. You come home, toss your keys on the laptop, the router, maybe even on the television stand. But in the lens of Feng Shui and in the quiet science of energy fields, this simple habit can fracture the coherence of your personal environment in ways you might never consciously notice. Electronics, by their very nature, emit fields of invisible noise. Wi-Fi signals, electromagnetic currents, and low-grade radiation all create an energetic vibration that is restless, agitated, and ungrounded. These fields distort the natural movement of qi, the life force energy that nourishes not just your body, but your surroundings. And when keys, which are made almost entirely of conductive metal, sit directly on these sources of disruption, they do not remain neutral. They act as absorbers, amplifiers, and broadcasters of that chaotic current. Over time, the keys you rely on to access your home, your car, your workspace, the very portals to your opportunities, begin to carry within them the signature of confusion, fragmentation, and instability. And because these are the objects you touch and carry multiple times a day, their energetic imprint starts weaving into your personal field. The consequences are subtle but undeniable. A mind that feels scattered, decisions that feel harder to make, Opportunities that slip through your fingers, not because you lacked preparation or effort, but because your internal field and the objects symbolizing your access to the world are resonating at cross purposes to your intentions. From a Feng Shui perspective, metal objects need a stabilizing partner to harmonize their energy. When keys are placed on neutral, natural surfaces, such as wood or stone, they are calmed, grounded, and made energetically supportive again. Wood nurtures and moderates metal's tendencies, creating a field of growth, focus, and smooth transitions. Stone, being of the earth element, anchors and stabilizes metal's dynamic, fast-moving nature, offering a silent but powerful message of security and endurance. The practical fix for this energetic leakage is simple yet transformative. Choose a clean, designated spot away from all major electronic devices. A small wooden tray placed several feet away from your router or TV stand is enough. A shallow ceramic bowl on a bookshelf, a carved stone dish near a window. The material matters because it speaks silently to your subconscious mind. It says, here is a place of care. Here is a place where movement and stillness are balanced. Here is where opportunity rests safely until you are ready to carry it forward again. This is not about adding complication to your day. It's about restoring ritual to what has been lost in speed and distraction. The act of setting your keys down on a chosen intentional surface becomes a daily declaration. I value the paths I walk. I honor the doors that open for me. I am ready to move forward with clarity and strength. That is the power of small corrections made with full attention. That is the hidden elegance of Feng Shui, not superstition, but subtle mastery over the forces that shape your inner and outer landscapes. When you make this shift, you may not notice dramatic fireworks overnight, but over days and weeks, you may begin to find yourself feeling calmer at moments when you once felt rushed. You may discover that forgotten details come back to mind at just the right moment. That communication flows a little easier. That financial decisions feel less tangled. That opportunities, once elusive, begin to land gently within your reach. It is not magic. It is design. It is remembering that your home, your habits, your hands, they are all speaking a language, whether you hear it or not. And when you choose to speak clearly, life too answers more clearly in return. 2. Dropping keys near the main door. The entrance to your home is not just a physical opening. In Feng Shui, it is considered the mouth of Qi, the main portal through which all fortune, vitality, and opportunity enter your living space. It is the first boundary where external energy transforms into internal nourishment. And because of its significance, what happens immediately at and around the front door has an outsized impact on everything that unfolds beyond it. When keys are dropped loosely, haphazardly, or in cluttered piles directly near this critical gateway, it sends a confusing message to both the energy field of the home and the subconscious minds of those who live there. Instead of offering a clear, welcoming channel for new opportunities and blessings to flow inward, you create a kind of energetic turbulence, a whirlpool of mixed signals that can weaken both the protection of the home and the prosperity it is capable of holding. From an energetic perspective, loose keys near the door resemble loose boundaries, scattered intentions, and vulnerability. Keys represent access, and when they are carelessly abandoned near the threshold, it symbolically suggests that fortune and security are not being guarded or valued properly. Imagine it this way. Would you leave the literal keys to your wealth and future sitting exposed at the very gate where strangers pass by? When seen through this lens, the habit seems less harmless and more like an open invitation for instability. The correct approach is not complicated, but it must be intentional. Keys should be positioned a few steps inside the home, ideally placed to the side of the entryway, not directly facing the incoming Qi. This small buffer allows fresh energy to enter cleanly without immediately colliding into symbols of transition and access. It invites fortune to linger, settle, and weave into the fabric of your daily life, rather than feeling repelled or scattered the moment it crosses the threshold. A wooden sideboard tucked neatly beside the entrance, a graceful stone bowl placed atop a welcoming console table, even a simple wall-mounted key holder discreetly positioned so that the keys rest sideways rather than staring straight into the opening of the door. These are small acts with profound consequences. They signal that you value what enters your home. They communicate to the unseen forces that you are organized, attentive, and prepared to receive abundance safely and respectfully. One real-world example comes to mind: a young entrepreneur struggling with constant financial near misses, opportunities that would approach but somehow dissolve before closing. After a Feng Shui consultation revealed that she habitually tossed her keys onto a cluttered shoe rack directly facing her front door, she shifted the placement, installing a small wooden shelf 3 steps inside her hallway, adding a soft plant beside it. Within 3 months, she reported that her projects stabilized, her contracts closed faster, and most importantly, she felt calmer and more centered at home. The message is simple yet powerful. When you treat the entrance to your home with reverence, fortune treats you with favor. When you protect and organize the symbols of your access and movement, your keys, you protect and organize the paths through which life's blessings can reach you. It is not superstition, it is the art of understanding and respecting the natural flow of energy that sustains all success. If you do nothing else after this reflection, consider this. Walk to your front door today. Look at where your keys are now. Ask yourself, is this arrangement inviting protection, clarity, and prosperity? Or is it unintentionally leaking them away? A small shift made with full heart and conscious placement could open more doors than you ever imagined. 3. Hiding keys on high shelves. Keys symbolize movement, access, and personal empowerment. They are the physical representations of your ability to open doors, unlock opportunities, and step into new chapters of life. In Feng Shui, how you store and interact with your keys carries symbolic weight far beyond convenience. When keys are hidden away on high shelves, out of daily view and physical reach, you send a subtle but potent message to your subconscious mind that control over your own pathways is distant, hard to grasp, or perhaps not yours to command. This seemingly minor habit often reflects a deeper energetic pattern, one where goals feel perpetually postponed, where opportunities hover just out of reach, and where momentum feels slow or blocked despite best efforts. There is a symbolic truth operating quietly beneath the surface. In traditional energy wisdom, the ideal relationship between an object of access, like a key, and its user is one of readiness and partnership. Your keys should be easily reachable, visible without strain, and honored through thoughtful placement. When they are hidden on top shelves, tucked behind books, or forgotten amidst clutter, it suggests that your own readiness to move forward is impaired. It projects an image, not only to external energies, but to your own deeper psyche, that movement is something delayed, that success is something that must be struggled for or climbed toward endlessly. A real-world story illustrates this beautifully. A small business owner I once consulted had been battling inexplicable delays in her operations. Deals would start but never close. Clients would express interest but hesitate. Internally, she felt ready, but externally, the energy felt heavy and slow. When we walked her space, one small but revealing detail emerged. She kept her office keys, and by extension, her access to contracts, client meetings, and growth on the top shelf of a crowded cabinet, tucked behind marketing materials she hadn't used in years. After repositioning her keys to a clean, easily accessible location near a symbol of wealth, a carefully placed coin bowl beneath a thriving plant, the shift was almost immediate. Within weeks, client agreements began closing smoothly. Communications that once dragged out found resolution. New opportunities arrived without the exhausting uphill struggle she had grown accustomed to. This is not coincidence. It is the principle of aligned resonance. When your keys are placed with intention, within easy, respectful reach, you affirm to yourself and to the subtle currents of opportunity around you that you are prepared, that you are present, that you are capable of stepping through any door that appears. Conversely, when access is made difficult by your own unconscious choices, life mirrors that difficulty right back to you. The practical remedy is gentle but powerful. Bring your keys down to a natural, accessible height, somewhere between waist and heart level, where they can be retrieved without strain and where they are not buried beneath unrelated clutter. Place them near objects that symbolize growth, clarity, and prosperity. A small living plant, a polished wooden tray, a simple bowl of stones or coins. The key is not to over-decorate or crowd, but to create a clear, welcoming space where the symbols of your movement and success feel supported and respected. This is the art of Feng Shui in its most graceful form. Not massive structural changes, but small, intentional corrections that reshape the energetic pathways of daily life. Because in truth, the house you live in is a map of the life you are building. And the way you care for your keys is one of the quiet signatures of how ready you are to move forward. Every time you lift your keys from a place of ease, every time you step toward a door without struggle or delay, you reinforce a deeper truth, that your path is open, that life is not something to be climbed toward in exhaustion, but something to be entered with readiness, respect, and a kind of quiet joy. 4. Storing keys near medicine cabinets. In the subtle yet deeply influential world of Feng Shui, proximity matters just as much as placement. Objects absorb and exchange energy with whatever surrounds them. And when it comes to keys, those quiet carriers of movement, security, and prosperity, what they are stored near can either empower their influence or slowly erode it. Placing your keys near a medicine cabinet is one of those common but energetically compromising habits that few people realize impacts their daily momentum. Medicine, by its very nature, holds an imprint of imbalance. It carries the frequency of illness, of repair, of struggle against disharmony in the body. Even when medicine is healing, its energetic signature is tied to a correction of what has gone wrong, not to the thriving, flourishing vitality we ideally cultivate. When you store your keys, the very instruments that open new pathways, next to a space that energetically represents illness or fragility, you subtly anchor your movement to the vibration of recovery rather than expansion. Over time, this quiet link can manifest as delays in progress, as a sense of always almost getting there, but never fully stepping into flow. Vitality leaks not in dramatic bursts, but in small, invisible drips. Your decisions feel slightly less clear. Your energy feels a bit heavier. Your opportunities, though present, seem to require more effort to seize. It is important to understand that energy is impressionable. Just as water takes on the flavor of the vessel that holds it, so too do your keys. And by extension, your pathways through life take on the frequency of their resting place. If that resting place is associated with cure rather than celebration, with maintenance rather than momentum, the very essence of your movement becomes subtly burdened. The remedy is beautifully simple. Move your keys away from any space associated with illness, recovery, or fragility. Instead, place them near a source of thriving, living energy, a healthy indoor plant with lush leaves, a window that welcomes fresh light and air, a wooden surface that grounds and steadies the metal of the keys. These choices are not about aesthetics alone, Sam. They are about aligning the symbolic language of your environment with the energetic blueprint of the life you wish to lead. One small adjustment, made with full awareness, begins to create ripples through your home and through your experiences. It signals to your subconscious and to the larger energetic currents that govern flow that your movement is anchored in life, in growth, in abundance, not in the maintenance of past wounds. It teaches your space to respond to you with vitality instead of hesitation. There is a quiet but profound difference between living in a space that supports your momentum and one that subtly reminds you to hold back. In Feng Shui, the art lies in noticing these invisible influences and correcting them with grace rather than judgment. Your keys deserve to live where life itself is flourishing. And you, in turn, deserve to move through a life where growth is the natural state, not the hard-won exception. Imagine reaching for your keys each morning from a place where fresh leaves reach for the sun, where the air carries renewal, where the unseen currents of energy whisper, it's safe to move forward. That is the kind of foundation that transforms not only how you enter the world each day, but how the world meets you. 5. Tossing keys on dining or coffee tables. The dining table, whether formal or humble, is more than a surface for food. It is the altar of daily life, a space where nourishment, connection, and gratitude are shared and multiplied. In Feng Shui, it symbolizes the heart of abundance, the physical and energetic place where sustenance enters and prosperity is affirmed. When this sacred space becomes casually invaded by objects unrelated to nourishment, especially active transitional items like keys, it disrupts the quiet magic that dining spaces are meant to cultivate. Keys, by their nature, carry the chaotic energy of movement. They are touched and carried through the noise of errands, work stress, unexpected news, city traffic, and the countless invisible negotiations we move through each day. Their vibration is not one of rootedness, it is one of departure, change, coming and going. When you toss keys onto a dining or coffee table, even absent-mindedly, you symbolically invite scattered energy to sit where stable, nourishing energy should reign. You unconsciously prioritize busyness over gathering, distraction over presence, transaction over communion. Over time, the energy of the table shifts. Meals may feel more rushed. Conversations may turn more transactional or strained. The act of nourishment itself, the giving and receiving of life, forced through food, through shared space, becomes subtly frayed. The deeper teaching here is not about rules or restrictions. It is about remembering the invisible agreements that different parts of your home are holding. Your dining table agrees to anchor family unity, abundance, and grounding. It agrees to catch the moments of your day that are meant to slow down, to nourish. When you honor that agreement by keeping the table clear of transient, chaotic items, you reinforce the prosperity that naturally flows from a well-tended center. The gentle, practical correction is straightforward but powerful. And reserve your dining and coffee tables for their sacred purposes. Eating, conversing, displaying beauty, creating soft landings for the heart. Find or create a designated resting place for your keys elsewhere. It could be a small, welcoming tray by the entryway, a wooden bowl tucked discreetly on a sideboard, or even a shallow drawer within easy reach of the door. The point is not to make life harder or less spontaneous. The point is to create a soft but steady structure that upholds the energies you most want to flourish within your home. One simple change, moving your keys a few steps away from your dining table, can subtly recalibrate the field of your living space. Meals may feel more nourishing, gatherings more joyful, quiet evenings more peaceful. The table regains its role as the center of sustenance, not the parking lot of a restless life. When we remember that every object carries not just function, but energy, we begin to move differently through our homes. We begin to honor the unseen relationships between spaces, objects, and intentions. And life, ever responsive, begins to honor us back with deeper connection, clearer blessings, and a more abundant flow of all that truly sustains. The 3 best places to anchor your keys for prosperity. Wooden bowls or decorative trays. When it comes to the unseen language of energy in a home, the materials we choose to interact with daily speak louder than we often realize. In Feng Shui, the element of wood holds a sacred role. It represents life, renewal, steady growth, and the quiet resilience of nature pushing upward through the soil. Metal, the element associated with keys, is strong but needs direction, needs a soft hand guiding its force. And in the 5 elements cycle, wood nurtures and regulates metal, softening its sharpness, grounding its potential, and allowing it to serve rather than dominate. That is why placing your keys in a wooden bowl or on a decorative tray crafted from natural materials is not merely about aesthetics or tidiness. It is about shaping an energetic relationship that anchors and amplifies your life's momentum in the right way. Wood provides the kind of stable, living embrace that metal responds to best. When your keys come to rest in a wooden vessel at the end of each day, they are not left to vibrate against cold surfaces or in chaotic piles. They are given a place to exhale, to return to neutrality, to be gently recharged with the calm, enduring vitality of earth and growth. The very act of dropping your keys into a beautiful wooden bowl becomes a ritual of release. It says, without words, the day's battles are done, the paths walked have been honored. Tomorrow's gates will open again when the time is right. It transforms what could be a careless or chaotic moment into a sacred pause between movements. The style of the vessel matters less than the material and the intention behind it. A rustic hand-carved bowl, a sleek modern tray of bamboo, even a polished slice of driftwood repurposed as a resting place. Each option offers the same underlying energetic gift. Natural textures absorb excess, soothe frayed vibrations, and prepare both object and owner for the next chapter of movement. Placement matters too. Ideally, the wooden tray or bowl should live in a quiet but accessible area, not lost in clutter, not pressed into a corner, but presented with a kind of respectful openness that invites ease and flow. One story I often think about involves a man who had spent years struggling to feel at home after multiple relocations for work. No matter how nicely he decorated his apartments, he confessed there was always a lingering sense of transience, of being unrooted. After learning about the Feng Shui relationship between wood and metal, he made one simple change. He bought a small, beautiful walnut tray and began placing his house keys there every evening. Within months, his emotional connection to his home deepened. Friends began visiting more often, he cooked more, settled more, and in his words, "I finally stopped feeling like my life was always packed in a suitcase, halfway out the door." That is the hidden beauty of these subtle shifts. They don't just change your space, they change your story. Choosing to place your keys thoughtfully is an act of leadership over your own life force. It is a way of saying, I am grounded enough to move forward wisely. I trust my journey enough to prepare well for each step. And when your environment echoes that trust back to you, through the calm presence of a wooden bowl, through the orderly rest of a well-cared-for tray, life responds accordingly. Doors open more smoothly, directions reveal themselves more clearly, fortunes, both material and emotional, begin to root and flourish rather than slipping through restless, unanchored fingers. This is the quiet magic of mindful placement. It is not about buying expensive objects or obsessing over rigid rules. It is about choosing to live in a way that honors the invisible relationships between matter and meaning, between habit and destiny. It is about remembering that even the keys in your hand can either scatter your energy or gather it like a quiet current beneath your dreams. 2. A small dedicated drawer with red lining. Sometimes the most powerful energies are shaped not by grand gestures, but by quiet, precise choices, the kind that whisper rather than shout to the currents of fortune. In the practice of Feng Shui, one such choice lies in how we house the objects that symbolize our movement and control. Creating a small, dedicated drawer for your keys lined carefully with red cloth is one of the most potent yet simple ways to anchor your opportunities in protection, respect, and rising vitality. Red within the wisdom traditions of Feng Shui is far more than just a vibrant color. It is the embodiment of life force. It carries the fire of auspiciousness, the warmth of celebration, the sharp clarity of awakened attention. Red activates, strengthens, and guards. It tells the unseen energies, and just as importantly, your own subconscious, that what lies within its boundary is precious, and fiercely protected. When you place your keys, a direct symbol of your access to the world, inside a drawer lined with red fabric, you perform a silent but powerful declaration. Here is the seat of my mobility, my influence, my sovereignty, and it is honored, not neglected. This simple act transforms a utilitarian habit into a ritual of energetic empowerment. Instead of scattering your potential by leaving your keys exposed on countertops or lost beneath random objects, you consolidate it into a space that is private yet prepared, energized yet contained. The drawer itself need not be ornate or expensive. It can be a simple wooden compartment in an entryway cabinet, a velvet-lined box tucked discreetly into a console, or even a humble desk drawer repurposed with care. What matters is the consciousness you bring to its creation. Line it with a clean piece of red cloth, not synthetic, not tattered, but something you choose deliberately. Let it be smooth, vibrant, and full of living color. When you open that drawer, when your hand reaches inside, you should feel, not just see, the quiet affirmation that you are in stewardship of your own direction, that your movements in the world are rooted in security and supported by auspicious energy. There is a deeper psychology at play as well. Every time you place your keys in that protected, energized space, you reaffirm a relationship of respect with your own momentum. You practice completion rather than carelessness. You train your mind to see your opportunities not as random or fragile, but as structured, supported, and guarded. Over time, this internalized pattern begins to mirror itself outwardly, in better decisions, in clearer timings, in opportunities that feel easier to claim because they were never allowed to scatter into chaos in the first place. I once knew a woman who made this change in a time of deep uncertainty. She was moving through a career crossroads, feeling buffeted by forces beyond her control. As a quiet exercise, she created a red line drawer specifically for her house keys and the symbolic key to her office. Within a month, clarity began to return. Conversations that once seemed tangled resolved themselves. A new opportunity, a better fit than she had dared to hope for, arrived almost as if by invitation. Of course, the drawer alone did not manifest her destiny, but the act of honoring her access, of protecting her movement, aligned her with a larger current that had always been waiting for her attention. This is the art behind all true Feng Shui. It is not about superstition or overcomplication. It is about learning to speak the language of energy, quietly, skillfully, respectfully. It is about teaching your home, and therefore your life, what to honor, what to protect, and what to invite. A small, dedicated drawer, lined with the living fire of red, holding the simple instruments of your journey. This is not merely organization, it is preparation. It is gratitude in motion. It is the silent shaping of a future where doors do not slam shut, but swing open with grace. 3. Harmonized entry shelf. In the art of energy placement, harmony is never accidental. It is crafted through intention, through pairing objects not just for their utility, but for their meaning, their vibration, and the conversations they silently hold with the spaces around them. Creating a harmonized entry shelf for your keys, paired thoughtfully with a symbolic partner, is one of the most elegant, accessible ways to invite grounded prosperity and effortless movement into your life. Your keys represent action, transition, the crossing of thresholds, both literal and symbolic. Left alone, they carry a restless energy, always hinting at departure, at unfinished business. But when you anchor them beside a living, stabilizing symbol, you transform that restlessness into readiness. You tell the chi of your home, this is a place where movement is deliberate, where opportunities are welcomed with care, not rushed or squandered. A small jade stone is a beautiful companion in this setting. Revered across cultures for its qualities of protection, wisdom, and steady wealth, jade radiates a quiet, cooling energy that soothes the natural sharpness of metal keys. Placing a smooth jade piece beside your keys creates a symbolic balance between motion and wisdom, between ambition and stability. It grounds your transitions in patience, reminding you that not every door must be flung open at once, and that some paths ripen best with calm trust. Another powerful choice is a money frog, ideally a three-legged toad holding a coin, facing inward toward the home. In classical Feng Shui, this figure is not just a charm but a storytelling device. It represents the return of wealth to the hearth, the sealing of fortune within the private, protected spaces of one's life. Positioning your keys near such a symbol subtly trains your subconscious to associate each journey you embark on, not with scattering your energy, but with gathering new blessings to bring home. For those who prefer living symbols, a vibrant pothos plant makes an equally potent choice. Its curling, expansive growth teaches resilience, adaptability, and the endless upward seeking of life toward light. A pothos near your keys infuses each leaving and returning with an energy of flourishing, of flexibility, of abundant, fresh chi, moving freely through your comings and goings. The key, always, is to choose one symbolic partner, not to clutter or overcomplicate, but to cultivate a focused conversation between elements. The pairing should be simple, intentional, and well cared for. Dust should not be allowed to collect. Leaves should not be left wilting. The space should feel like a small, steady altar to movement, growth, and return, not a forgotten corner drowning in good intentions left untended. I once visited the home of a teacher who had mastered this subtle art. At her entryway was a smooth, polished piece of jade resting in a shallow wooden dish, with a few keys placed beside it, not carelessly thrown, but nestled, as if entrusted to rest there. Each time she left, she touched the jade with her fingertips for a brief moment. Each time she returned, she did the same. She described it as signing in and out with the energies of luck and protection. Her home felt impossibly grounded, full of a kind of invisible coherence that most people spend their lives seeking without realizing it begins in small rituals like these. The point is never to mimic anyone else's exact arrangement. It is to feel your way into what stabilizes and uplifts your own spirit. It is to build a personal, living relationship with your space, one where every small action echoes a larger intention. A harmonized entry shelf says without words, movement here is honored, transition here is protected, growth here is inevitable. In Feng Shui, fortune is not a random gift. It is a current that you align yourself with through 1,000 tiny gestures of awareness, a small shelf, a simple pairing, a conscious placement of the keys that govern your thresholds. This is how you teach fortune where you live and invite it to stay. Gentle closing reflection. Little movements, big shifts. In the end, Feng Shui is not a superstition to be feared, nor a rigid doctrine to be obeyed. It is a conversation, a lifelong dialogue between the spaces we inhabit and the dreams we nurture inside us. Every placement, every habit, every corner of our home whispers something back to the universe about what we believe we deserve, what we are prepared to receive, and how we are willing to grow. Keys may seem small, forgettable, mundane, but they are not. They are the holders of thresholds, the silent witnesses to every departure and every return. They are, in many ways, the living memory of your movement through life. And where you place them speaks volumes about how you relate to the flow of opportunity, protection, and prosperity in your daily existence. Tonight, before you surrender yourself to rest, I invite you to take just 5 minutes, not to rearrange your entire house, not to overhaul your life in a rush of pressure, but simply to notice. Walk quietly to the place where your keys currently live. Look with new eyes. Is it a place that feels cared for, energized, welcoming? Is it a space that signals to fortune? You are safe here. You are valued here. You have a home here. Or is it a place that feels forgotten, chaotic, accidental? Notice without judgment. Awareness, after all, is not about blame. It is about remembering the quiet power you hold. Because we are not punished or rewarded by some blind fate randomly rolling dice. We are every day in every overlooked gesture and tiny decision, co-authors of the life that meets us each morning. When we scatter our important symbols without care, life mirrors that diffusion back to us, in missed chances, in slow momentum, in restless seeking. But when we gather our life tools consciously, placing them in spaces that honor their role, life gathers itself differently too, offering clarity, alignment, opportunities that seem to find their way to our doorstep without force. So ask yourself tonight, what small shift could you make, not from fear, not from urgency, but from love? What would it feel like to prepare a resting place, not just for your keys, but for the version of yourself who is ready to walk more confidently through every new door? What would it mean to live as though every small act mattered? Because it does. If something in this reflection resonated with you today, if it opened a new way of seeing your own beautiful, evolving space, I warmly invite you to share your experience in the comments. Your words not only nourish this quiet community, but ripple outward in ways you may never fully see. And if you feel called to walk further alongside us, I invite you to like, share, and subscribe to New Day Mindfulness. Your presence, your attention, your belief in the quiet work of transformation, it matters more than you know. Each voice, each heart brings us closer to our shared circle of 1,000 souls seeking gentler, wiser ways to move through the world. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tending not just your home, but the future it is already shaping. Final. If today's reflections offered you even a small shift, a new way of seeing your daily habits, your living spaces, your invisible patterns, I invite you to stay a little longer with that noticing. Transformation rarely arrives in thunder, More often, it begins in whispers, in one thought reconsidered, one object placed with care, one simple choice carried out differently. If something you heard today sparked a feeling, a question, or even just a quiet sense of possibility, I would be honored if you shared your story in the comments. What is the first small change you feel called to make? Is there a space in your home, perhaps where your keys rest, or your steps begin and end, that is asking for a new kind of attention? Your experience matters, not just for yourself, but for everyone walking this path quietly alongside you. When we speak our intentions aloud, when we share the small awakenings we encounter, we amplify the energy that invites even greater shifts into our lives. And if you would like to continue exploring this way of living, grounded, attentive, gently powerful, I warmly invite you to subscribe to New Day Mindfulness. Every like, every share, every new voice helps this circle grow stronger and steadier. We are not rushing anywhere. We are weaving a community of those who want to live not just more abundantly, but more intentionally, more harmoniously, more awake to the currents that shape our days and our futures. If this video has brought even a little light to your perspective, I hope you'll take a moment to like, to comment, to subscribe, and to walk a little further with us. I am quietly, patiently working toward reaching 1,000 souls here, 1,000 people willing to see their world with new eyes. Your presence helps more than you know. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring about the unseen energies that shape the seen world. Thank you for choosing, again and again, to grow with grace.